Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from Artanian TV. Another quick game of Interplanetary I Spy going on here, and today we're looking at this image, and this goes right back to Sol 527, and we have this image taken in Gale Crater by the Curiosity rover a bunch of years ago now. I think this would have been around the sort of second year. This would be sort of 2013, I think this was taken. Oh no, 2014, I was wrong. Yeah, there we go, look. 29th of the 1st, so I was only slightly out. Okay, so we got this sort of ridge line here with a load of sort of rocks in a row, and right over to the far right of the image, near the centre, we have this thing. Okay, now this to me looks like a carved animal, and I don't really know what sort of animal it is, but I'm sure some of you might be able to help me with that. It kind of looks a bit like some kind of rodent, or who knows what it is. Here's the raw clip here that I just showed you. I just cropped it out. And unfortunately we got this line coming up here, which this is a fault that's on the camera, which has been there almost since, I think, the first year it was on Mars, almost straight away. But it's not that bad. And there we have it on the left. I've actually just cropped that out again from there and enlarged it a little bit, put a colour filter on it, added a little bit of brightness, and that's about it. I haven't really done a lot to the image at all. As you can see, there isn't a huge amount of difference between this one here and this one here. But what you can see quite clearly is a big eye here, a big sort of round eye. Let's zoom into that a bit. Now, it doesn't get any sharper when you zoom in, of course, but you can see that shape quite clearly. And it's got a hint of blue in there. Just here, you can see a blue part to it there. You've got rather a large ear coming right round, like that. You've got a jewel coming down here. You've got a mouth here. There seems to be rabbit-like teeth there. And we got a nostril here and a nostril here. Okay, so there we have it. Simple as that. There's internal structure to the ear as well here. You can see some internal kind of parts to it there, so it's not just a flat thing. Now the question is this a carving? And yes, I think it is. It looks like some kind of sculpture. I don't think it's some sort of mummified animal. It just doesn't look real enough to be a mummified animal, if you know what I mean. And generally, the mummies I've found and that other people have found on the surface, the mummified skulls and remains, usually look a lot more grotesque than this. And they basically usually have skin kind of hanging off and maybe bits of hair and stuff like that. I mean, this may be, I don't know. It's hard to say with some of these images. And now, this is quite large. Well, if you look here, it's hard to tell how big this is because we don't really know how far away that is. But I would say this is probably over a foot long and maybe in the realms of about 15 inches, possibly longer. But we're probably a lot closer to this than we actually think we are. I don't know. Now, here's the folder that this image comes from. Now, there's loads of stuff in this area, which I've covered before in previous videos, okay? There's this thing also, which looks absolutely insane. There's this thing here, which looks like an orangutan type carving or something. Now, whether that's carved or not, I couldn't tell you. But I've got some interesting information on this, on what I think a lot of these things are, and I'll tell you that in a minute. I've got some interesting articles I've found, and I've been pondering why there are so many carved animals and strange artifacts lying around on the Mars surface. I'm thinking, well, there must have been a lot of artists on Mars, in this part of Mars, in this crater, I should say. Or were there only a few that have done all of these things that I've found? Were there only maybe 3 or 4 artists? Or were there hundreds of them? I don't think there were hundreds of them at all. I think there were only 2 or 3. A lot of these things have a similar style to them, but it seems, and I'm not saying all these are carvings. We've got this thing here, which is nearby, which looks like an ape with an ear, there's an eye there. You can actually see the black iris there with white either side. So this may not be a carving at all. So the problem is, what I'm trying to get across here is that some of these things are blatantly carved, and some of them aren't. And some of them are hard to tell either way, whether they're made out of clay or they're actual mummified specimens, or they're sculpted, or whatever. You know, it's really difficult to tell, because obviously some of these images are quite poor quality, and you don't really get a sense of exactly what they are because of the quality of the image. And there's a lot that are in between, I would say, and are basically difficult to tell either way. I did this gigapan of the area, and the thing we're looking at today is right over to the far right here. You can see that black thing. These other things like the monkey sort of carvings and things are on this ridge line, but we're not looking at that today. I've done videos about that already. This is what we're looking at today. We come right along here to here, and there's the carved animal, which looks like some kind of rodent or rabbit or mouse or something a bit like that. I couldn't really say. It's rather strange. It's blatantly a carved animal. What else could it possibly be? The ear comes right round like that. The jewel, as I showed before, the mouth, obviously, nostrils, a big eye. That's getting a bit close to the eyes so we can see any more. There's a definite blue part to it here. That's blue, like a dark blue. And it has a darker shadow underneath here. You see that? And that's in the raw image. You see the blue? Even with the orange filter, you can see the blue. So it's definitely there. So what type of animal is this? Please leave a comment below. I really don't know. I don't know what to call it. I'm just going to call it a carved animal for now, because I'm not going to say whether it's a rabbit or a mouse or a rat or some other kind of weird creature that we don't have on Earth. It doesn't look quite like anything I've seen on Earth, but of course, if this is a carving, it may be stylized. Now, the problem is when you have stylization in art, in other words, you have artists interpreting things in their own way, you're not necessarily going to get an accurate depiction of the morphology of a creature. What you may get is a characterization, almost like a caricature. So this is where art becomes a little bit strange and a bit weird, because often on Earth, at least, you get artists who interpret things differently, and you end up having artists like Picasso or Dali who do quite abstract and strange looking objects and art that a lot of people like, but a lot of people dislike, because it doesn't accurately represent what we see, because it has a different style and a different sort of shape that doesn't necessarily represent the animal as it would have looked. Okay, so, but who knows? Maybe there was a creature that looked just like this. Don't know. We don't know that. But interesting to think about anyway. There was a couple of other things I'm just going to show you very quickly. Now, I put all of these. I've got a few articles here. Building concrete shelters on Mars. Now, as I was saying about making stuff like sculpture on Mars, how easy would it be? Well, it would be incredibly easy, because the Mars soil could be pressed into bricks or any shape very easily without adding any water. This would turn into concrete. So effectively, you could grab a handful or a few handfuls of Martian soil and then squish it together into a shape, and it would solidify into very, very hard concrete, mainly because of its sulfur content, okay, and the fact that the particles are very small. Now, it goes into some detail here about how this engineer managed to work out that you could build stuff very easily using Mars soil. So this is pressed together with a hammer. Now, basically what this means is you could just squish this stuff together. You wouldn't necessarily need to use a hammer like this guy has here to make bricks, but because the grains are so small and similar shape, and the high level of sulfur in the soil, it will stick together like glue and become a very hard concrete. So in other words, you could actually do sculpture without having to use a kiln. All you'd need to do is go around, gather up the material, squash it together somehow, either by hand or using some kind of mechanism, like a press, and then you could get it to the approximate shape that you need to make the object. Maybe it's an animal shape or a skull or a head or something, or a person or whatever. Maybe it's a commission you're doing. And what you would do is you would mould it approximately to the exact shape you need, and then once it's dry you could do fine detail afterwards by chipping some of it away, okay, using a chisel. There's another guy here building concrete shelters on Mars. This guy's called Gianluca Cossatis, and he's also worked out that you can build extremely strong concrete blocks and stuff like that just by pressing this stuff together. The strength is due to the small size of the particles of the Martian soil, as well as the little understood chemical reaction between the soil and sulfur. His team also found that when concrete breaks and is remelted and recasted, it becomes even stronger. So the more that you process it, the stronger it becomes. Very interesting. I won't read all this out to you now. What I've done is I put all these articles here upon Artanian TV Mars magazine, and you can just go there and read them, okay? Or you can look at the links below in the description and follow those, okay? So there's also this other interesting article here. NASA backs designs for 3D printed domes on Mars. There's a rather nice picture here. I don't know if that enlarges. No, it doesn't. Some pretty cool concepts going on here, and there's an interior of a Mars dwelling as well. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And here we have the sort of dome-like, well, it's not really a dome, it's kind of a cone-shaped building, which is rather interesting. Not unlike some of the ones that you already see on Mars that are already there. Especially up in the northern hemisphere, near the melt zone, in the northern Arctic region, where there are millions of these similar shaped domes, which are metallic and very reflective, and you can see them all over Google Mars if you go on there. So, very interesting. So I won't read out that now. I'll leave that for you to read. I'm sure you're quite capable of reading this stuff. I just thought I'd show you that basically, as I've been saying for a long time about the Martian surface, because this is an old lake bed, there are probably lots of different types of clays and the stuff that you could get together to make things from. Now, the actual sand and soil here is probably, you could just mould it together into an animal shape and then quickly make something and just leave it there, and it would just dry within an hour or two, and then you'd have a perfectly solid concrete kind of moulded animal or person or whatever. You could even just make a small shelter by making a load of bricks and then piling them up or whatever, you know. I mean, it's very conducive to very quickly making shapes. This may explain why there are so many animal carvings or sculptures lying around on the surface. And I'm sure there are probably different types of clay, minerals and stuff in the lake bed further over by the base of Mount Sharp. And I would imagine that there would be different types of clay there, so you could actually make different types of material with different densities and different properties, some which would be much easier to mould than others, I'm sure. But traditionally on Earth we use water-based clay, you know, and the problem with that is you have to fire it. You basically mould it together, and then what you do is like you probably have done at school if you've done pottery at school. You basically have to mould it together and then get it to the shape you want, and then put it in an oven for hours and slowly cook it until it dries out. And often if you get that wrong, if you have the temperature too high, then it will crack and fall to pieces. I actually did make a sculpture of one of the things on Mars, which I'm just going to show you very briefly now. This is called Mars Alien Object 3D Model Created. Okay, I did this a year and a half ago now. Didn't get a lot of views, so I was going to do a whole series of these. I'll show you it now. You can actually just see there in the corner me doing it in high speed because it just took me a while. I basically made a model of this thing out of clay, and then I put it in the oven, and then because the oven was too hot, it actually cracked into pieces, and then I had to glue it back together again. So it wasn't a huge success, but it turned out all right in the end. But you can see that I've got it in high speed here. Let's make that a bit larger for you, so you can see what I'm doing there. Oops, there we are. I don't know how long that's going to take. It might take too long. Let's go to near the end. And basically, this is the sort of plastic-based clay. It's kind of like a polymer clay, okay? So it's pretty cool stuff. And when it dries into the sort of plastic, really hard plastic, but a little bit brittle, as I found out. So I actually just got the image of this object here with a handle on the top, which is not far from where we are today, actually. This is really only about 20 meters away, or less, than this thing I'm showing you today, the animal carving, and is on the side of the ridge line next to the Dingo Gap. And a lot of you may have seen this before. So basically, this would explain why there are so many heads and carvings and sculptures lying around. It's because the soil is very conducive because of its high sulfur content and small grain and the various chemicals in the soil. It would be very easy to make objects which would then solidify naturally without having to bake them and without having to fire them. So what we have is the absolutely perfect material, not only for building shelters and such like, but also making sculpture. And there we are. There's a replica of this object. If you want to see that in full, just go to my channel, and there's a playlist with all the 3D stuff in. There's some moon stuff that was done in 3D as well. That's really cool. So check those out. So thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry that went on a bit longer than expected, but there's a lot of stuff to get through here, as usual. I never do the simple option. I always go for the complicated option. So thanks for watching. Please give the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you soon.